Welcome to another edition of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 here on Municipal Affairs. With October 20th fast approaching, the race for municipal office across Alberta is heating up. From every corner of the province, candidates for mayor, reeve, and council are stepping forward with ideas for stronger communities, smarter growth, and brighter futures. Today, we're turning our attention to the city of Brooks, where we are sitting down and chatting with Marissa Wardrop, who is seeking re-election as councillor for the city of Brooks, Alberta. Marissa, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about yourself, but also talking about your re-election bid to be one of the city of Brooks' next councillors, but for you, concurrent councillors into the next term. Got to start with a very simple question. What made you, after 4 years, decide I want to continue on in the role of city councillor for another 4?
Well, first, thanks for having me, Chris. It's a pleasure to come on again. It was a great 4 years. Ups and downs. It's a difficult job, but it's also super rewarding. Actually, there's a story I would like to tell you. I think it sums up really nicely. It was a nice reminder the other day of why I do want to run again. And so I was actually shopping with my daughter. So my daughter is starting hockey this fall. And so, we're shopping around for equipment to try and get as much pre-owned as I can because it's an expensive sport to play. But so we're shopping for a helmet, skates. And we're going past the helmets. And my daughter says to me, "Oh, Mom, don't get me a pink helmet." I said, "Oh, okay." And because we love pink, because I'm actually wearing pink right now. I said, "Okay, well, why not?" And she says, "It's the wrong pink. It's baby pink." And she's right, like the helmets. It seems like, I've gone to a lot of different stores. It seems like where we go, it's like white and this soft baby pink, like for baby blankets or whatever, not a fuchsia or a hot pink. So it's the wrong pink. And so anyway, we go on and I'm tying up these skates for her. And I'm kind of almost talking to myself at this point. But I actually don't know why it's always that same baby pink. And she says, "Oh, well, maybe the people who make the hockey helmets are all boys. And so they just don't know." And I was like, and it stopped me just like that. It stopped me in my tracks. And I said, "You know what? You could be right. You probably are right." And that's exactly why Mom is running for city council. It was a great moment for me. And just like my daughter, who's hoping that the people who are making decisions for her, know what she wants, knows what she likes. That's what everyone wants. And that's what I want to be able to do for the people that I represented last term. I want to do it again.
This last term for you is kind of, and I don't want to say a lonely island, but you are the only female elected politician in the city of Brooks, and you are the lone female voice around that council table. What perspective did you bring to the table? And I don't want to say this in the condescending, the man asking the woman this question, but from outsider's perspective, are you running as the female candidate to be the female voice on council, or are you running as Marissa, running to bring that perspective that your daughter can look up to, that the single mother can look up to? Why are you running as, or I shouldn't say why are you running, but what are you running as? Are you running as Marissa, or are you running as the female candidate?
There's a lot of different parts to that, but it's complex.
It is.
Yeah, and it matters, and it touches us in an emotional way, right? Like it is a very it's a fueled conversation. So I think there's a lot of different aspects to it. Like, first of all, I was the only female candidate, female councillor, and it was huge for me, and it was there was a striking. There was a vacuum there that had I not been there, there would have been a very palpable absence of a perspective that would have been kind of missing there. And that was a big reason why I ran the first time, and I think, gender is huge. The female perspective is so crucial. But I can't quite separate my experience from age as well. So I'm also I'm still under 40. I was even more under 40 the first time I ran. But that was also a really big part of my perspective and what I brought to the table. And so when I ran the first time, I wasn't running as, female under 30. It was more like, this is us. Like, I'm running to represent us because, the average age of a resident in Brooks is my age. We're in the thick of life. We're in the most productive years in our career, raising young families. We're doing a lot, right? We're using our local facilities. Like, I'm in that rec center. I'm going to the rink. I'm pushing my stroller down the sidewalk. My garbage can, like, bin fills up 10 times faster than everyone else, all the other counselors around the table, because I got a full family of 4, right? So it's those things that I've brought to the table, and I wanted to, and I'm proud to say that I have brought a lot of that perspective to the table. And that is that's what I'm running, I guess, as. Now it's a little different because I have some experience under my belt, and I have a track record that I'm actually really proud of. But I'm running as someone who gets you. Like, I understand you. I know what you need. I know what you want, right? In a big way. While also being able to take a step back and say, my perspective is also not everything. It's important. It's important to have a variety, a diversity of people and voices and experiences around the table. And mine is just equally as valid as anyone else's there. So, that's where I'm coming from.
So looking back on 4 years, and we're going to talk about some of the accomplishments and some of the issues that the city of Brooks faces over the next 4 years, but looking back on the last 4 years, there's always a sense when I talk to politicians, and I know politicians at the local level hate being called politicians, but guess what? You're elected, so you're a politician. There's always a sense that politicians always want to try and look towards the future. We look at the back, but we also need to look towards the future. What did you not get accomplished in the first 4 years that you were hoping to get accomplished in the next 4 years? Because that is the reason why most people seek reelection, of saying, okay, I got this done, but this is what I need to continue on. What's that thing for you that you want to see continue on if the people of Brooks put their trust in you on October 20th?
That's a great question. And actually, I don't think we're asked that enough, right? Like, because it is, to me, it's, I never went in with the perspective of, like, I'm going to do this and I can check this box and check this box and check that box. And I think a lot of people do have that expectation, because it's a fair assumption to make. However, I did have, my father has a long and storied experience in municipal politics. And so I knew that, it doesn't work like that. You don't go in and then just, I'm going to accomplish this, and then, it's going to get done, and then this is going to get done, and now move on to the next item. So I've always looked at it more as a kind of like a spectrum of where I want to go. It's more like vision. Like, what is my vision? And so I guess I'd maybe frame it like that. Like, I think,
can I rephrase the question a little bit then for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Looking back on the last 4 years, what is the thing you look back and say, this is why I did it? This is why I'm proud that I was around that table to get this done. What is that thing that you look at and say, I've made Brooks better off today than it was 4 years ago?
Okay, so I think I have I'm proud to have brought my strong voice to the table, and like that perspective that we were just talking about. and using that, I've been able to open up and increase funding for local nonprofits. The last thing I can think of too, and I'm really happy about, was to get the spray park in one of our neighborhoods. And it's just a little thing, but it's it's me trying to communicate how important those little things are in a neighborhood. Like, what, spending $200,000 on a spray park to some people sounds like a frivolous, expenditure. But to me, I know how important that is to people. It makes your neighborhoods come alive. It makes it, it makes your city livable, right? Those are the things that, those are the kinds of things that I'm proud to say that I've made a difference. I know that I have made a difference anytime I showed up to that table, just for the fact that my voice is strong, and I advocated for a huge part of my city's demographic. And then the other side of your question was like, well, what still needs to be done? A lot still needs to be done. I feel like, and maybe I would think a lot of first-time councillors feel like how I felt, that the first couple of years are so, you learn so much. It was a really humbling learning experience. And so, those first couple of years, I'm working really hard to understand the issues, to keep up, right? To learn these new policies and procedures. And it's very dense, right? There's a lot to it, while also accomplishing those important goals and keeping to that vision. And so then after a couple of years there under the belt, that's when I felt like I could really dig in and really get in there with confidence and really tackle those goals. And so now looking forward, now I'm excited, because I'm like, oh yeah, like now I have that experience under my belt, and like, now what else can we do? Right? Like the vision that I have for Brooks of being like such a wonderful, thriving, livable city. I want to use my voice and my experience now to continue to work toward that. Mm-hmm.
Now, as we mentioned at the big during the start of the interview, you said it's good to be back on the show, because yes, I did have you back on the show a few years ago when it was in the first few years of your first term. And there's a question I always ask people on the cross-border interviews, but we're on a different show, but I'm going to ask it in the same sense here. The life of a municipal councillor, the life of a municipal mayor, is about balancing the needs of the community against the individual needs. Now, you probably know people who have very strong individual needs in your community. That pothole in front of their house, that park that needs to be upgraded. But as a councillor, you have to balance that with the entire community. What's good for Brooks as a whole? In your time in office over the last 4 years, do you feel like you have been able to balance the needs of the many with the needs of the few? Because people want to feel like their concerns are being heard, but you as a counselor have to vote in favor of things that are in the grand picture the best for all of Brooks, not just John or Sarah or Beth.
Absolutely. I think a big part of it, well, that's like why we're not just one person, right? This isn't an executive order of any kind.
Oh, shots fired! Shots fired!
Shots fired. Yeah. So that's the importance of coming to the table to listen too, right? So I think coming to the table, having that collaborative attitude, being ready to listen, because we are all hearing those individual loud voices, right? They're like, this is what I need, this is what I need. And I think, if coming into council chambers, seeking to understand, keeping that balance in mind, reaching out, and this is key, reaching out to make sure that you do hear all the voices, not just the loudest ones. And it can be done. Our budget actually will, be coming up just like everyone else's. And it's really exciting. Our community engagement for our latest budget survey here is like quadruple what it has been in the past.
But you guys have a really good marketing campaign around that budget consultation, back to the budget. Like, I'm sorry, that is, whoever came up with them, you need to give them a raise. And I'm just saying that as a former communications person.
Right? That's Jordan in communications. He's doing a bang up job. It's awesome. Like those are the things, right, that we need to like to consider because you can't, it's a struggle when you're around the budget table and you're looking at like these, and not just budget, but anything in your, but budget particularly, right? We're looking at the feedback we have, and we have like 120 people that responded, and we're like, okay, well, we want to really take this all into consideration. We're trying to balance all this information that we have, but we don't feel like we get enough, right? Because if you're really committed to doing what's best for everyone, you got to hear from everyone or as many people as you possibly can. So,
How do
so
you
that's
feel
my,
like you've done that? How do you feel like you've been able to listen to everyone? Because you're right. There is a large portion of the population who would say, I don't check social media 24/7 like Chris Brown does and lives in a different community than Brooks and knows exactly what's going on in Brooks. But there are people in Brooks who say, I've elected you to do a job, but yes, I do want to give my opinion. How have you made sure that you're hearing from people who don't often get engaged with? Because there is that sense that, and I'm saying this painting broad stroke here, not pointing at you, Marissa, at all, but there's always a sense that, oh, politicians only come around during an election period. Oh, they'll only listen to me when they come knock
yeah.
on my door. How have you been able to engage with people over the last 4 years to make them feel like they're actually being heard, that you're going to carry into term two if they offer you one?
Well, it's putting your money where your mouth is, right? Is going out and talking to people. That's like the biggest thing is going out there and talking to people and not being afraid to go to places where you are not traditionally found. There was actually when I'm saying this, I remember going to it was a fish and wildlife, it was awards night. And man, I saw a lot of people there who I know, right, acquaintances and some even old family friends, but that's not a circle of people that I spend a lot of time with. But it was an important evening to go to. I had conversations with people who come from just they live a different life than I do. And it's really important to check yourself, right? Remind yourself that, people not everybody thinks the way I do. Not everyone values the same things that I value. And my job is to represent everyone, not just the people that, right, match my values and whatnot. Um, yeah, like one way that I feel really passionate about doing that, and Councillor Idris and I really advocated strongly for this, was to have a devoted staff member, like a new staff member to welcoming, like we called it a welcoming inclusion coordinator, because we wanted to make sure that we are reaching out, that we're hearing all these different voices that maybe don't. Sometimes they get lost in translation, right? We're in our own little bubbles. And so now I'm on the Welcoming Inclusion Committee, which is a brand new committee. And we have people from, different walks of life. Some are newcomers to the community, and not just, new to Canada, but just new residents. There's people who, like, we've got representatives from major, but like, our core, like kind of social services sector. Anyway, the goal is to just reach out and to do that in a meaningful way that translates into policy that changes and affects people's life in a positive way. Because there's one thing to talk about it, right? Which is important, right? Don't get me wrong, but then as my job is to make it happen. We make it happen through policy, right? And that needs to be prioritized. So
I want to turn to the issues because that's what most people are probably tuning in for and listening to what
mhm.
you are going to do and what you're thinking the issues are going to be and are right now. Now, I know it's still early days for you because you just announced that you're making your intentions to run. I'm not sure if you've actually officially filed your paperwork by the time this airs, but the time we're talking, you have filed paperwork with the intention of running, but not actually filed the paperwork yet. So, with that being said, this could change by the time this airs. Marissa, you are probably talking to people even outside of this campaign period, and you're probably asking people what they believe are the biggest priorities that they need city councils to focus on. In your opinion, what are the top three priorities that the residents of Brooks are facing today?
I think number one would be affordability, and that's not a surprise, right? That's something that many communities, I'd say most communities, are struggling with, right, all across the country, really. So it's affordability, and I think we have an important role to play there, and we can do what we can. I think as a councillor, or even just like, let's say as a candidate, okay, in this election, I'm not going to be somebody who's going to say, I'm going to slash your taxes, I'm going to cut your property taxes, because tax cuts equal service cuts. And when we're struggling, we don't need service cuts. We need more services, right? So we have to be smart about how we strike that balance, like you were saying, right? So what are we going to get the biggest bang for our buck for? So it's things like I would love to see public transit. I would love to see some kind of some affordable transportation for people who do not have reliable transportation. That stops people from going to work, jobs that pay them. It stops, things like that, where like we got to listen, just like we were saying before, listen to the different voices in our community, identify where are the pain points, and then come up with a solution that uses our tax dollars that we collect in the most effective way to help people. So that's, I would say that's the number one issue there.
So I'm gonna play on that sandbox for just a second before we go into 2 and 3, because you're a politician. You've probably heard this numerous times, so I'm not saying anything out of turn here. There's always the sense that tax dollars are not being spent wisely. Do you believe the tax dollars that the city of Brooks collects? And I say that, I'm going to say this in a very clear way. The property taxes that the city of Brooks collects that are not attached to the education portion of the property taxes that get sent somewhere else to the province. The portion of the property taxes that the city of Brooks collects to utilize for infrastructure, capital projects, operational budgets. Do you believe that portion of property taxes gets spent wisely?
Yeah, say it louder for the people in the back.
I could spend like a whole hour just saying that over and over again, because I know there's going to be someone, because the last time I had you on the show, Marissa, you started the whole line of questions to me saying, this is your opinion and your opinion alone. So since then, with that being said, I just want to make sure people know the property taxes that the city collects, some of it is not under the role and the responsibility of the city. They collect it on behalf of the province and get sent to the province for your education, your schools, your X, Y, and Z part of the school part of it. So for the city part of the property taxes that are collected, do you believe they are spent wisely?
Yes, I do. And unfortunately, and just like how we, this whole preamble that we've had back and forth, like the bigger conversation, unfortunately, is just like, is what they are. And then it's all this messy, what portion is the provincial tax and how much, and what's our actual percentage rate and what's this going to look like on my bill when it comes. And that's something that's a goal of mine too, is to make sure that we really continue to communicate that. Like, here is what Brooks, here's what your city council is, here's where your dollars are going. Here's what we have decided to do with it. And unfortunately, like the provincial sales, the provincial tax, the education portion has gone up exponentially in the last.
And it's going to go up next year as well.
It's going to go up again, right? And so, so then it's on municipalities to be even more prudent with where we put those dollars, So I think we have done a good job of putting the dollars where they belong. The issue is that, taxpayers are already burdened now at the local level with 9% more education tax, just the last one alone, 9% more. And so when we know that, if we raise just for inflation, people aren't going to, what kind of tolerance level do people have for that? And when they say, and so, okay, so what are my tax dollars getting for me? It sure doesn't feel proportional, because you're paying more than what you're seeing happening. Right. And a big part of that, unfortunately, it is just that provincial portion comes out of our local taxes. So I think that they are being spent wisely and appropriately. I do wish that we had more room to spend on things that, the people see, and this is something that I have stressed on council the last term, this current term here, is that, it's one thing to, yes, we know that we have spent them in a prudent, acceptable way, but people also need to feel like they are getting value for their tax dollars. And so there has to be a balance there. And so that's why I really advocated for that spray park, for example, because, people you need to have some kind of reward. You need to get that feeling of, yes, we're doing stuff. Like, what is my community providing for me? We can't just continue to raise taxes just enough so that your sidewalks aren't crumbling and your streets can get plowed in the wintertime. That is not, that's not the vision I have for my community, right? We want to be flourishing and thriving. And that means striking that balance. It's tough.
Well, it's that tangible item too, right? Because when everyone pays their taxes, you want to be able to see the thing that you're talking about. Like as much as pipes in wastewater treatment facilities and lift stations are massively important to the day-to-day operations, they aren't the quote unquote sexy things. They aren't the things that go, oh, you've put a new ice pad, you've put a new soccer field in our, you've put a new pickleball court in our community. Those are the things that people can touch, they can feel, and they can use. They can't use the lift station, even though they use it on a regular basis. It's just not the quote unquote sexy things. But again, we can have a whole hour-long conversation on infrastructure issues, but we won't go there. So affordability is number one. What's the other two?
I think another one is the role that our local leadership has to play here with a lot of social unrest here. It's really rising to the surface, especially in Brooks. We're hearing it everywhere. There's a lot of voices that are seeking to divide us, and we have a job to do there. That's an issue. That's something that I hear a lot in, and it's popping up, and it kind of is manifesting in all the other issues per se, like development, like affordability, like our public accessibility to our services, like whatever, anything. It just kind of is latching on to all these things that we all care about, and it's kind of manifesting in this social unrest, and that's something that we can't ignore. We can't ignore as the leaders in a community. And so I really do think that is something that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be carefully considered. And it's leadership. We come from there.
So leadership, affordability, what's the priority number 3 that you're hearing from residents of what they want accomplished or talked about during this campaign?
I think, it's something that it came up the last campaign as well, or, during that time, is the increased opportunities in Brooks. You hear sometimes, well, not sometimes, I do hear often, what's there to do here? There's not enough to do, and there's not enough opportunities. So it is creating more opportunities for, like I said, I think before, livability in Brooks. Like what do we have to compete with like Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, Calgary with, right? We have to think about why do people choose to live here, right? And a big part of it is affordability. And I'm proud to say, that's where we're really competitive in Brooks, is the affordability piece. But there's more to that, right? It is about the spray park in your, a block from your house. It is about a top of the line, rec center. It is about those things, and so finding opportunities to leverage our tax dollars, to leverage those relationships with our other levels of government, to create those opportunities for people in Brooks, like that's what people want to see. And that goes from everything from, like I said, recreation to local economy, right? Like really focusing on our local businesses and striking a balance between like bringing more development and maintaining what we already have, right? So there's, and with that development, right, the housing is huge, right? That housing is a big thing. That will be something that we talk about as well. On honestly, I think that's one of the things that I'm really pleased about our council this term is that we've made significant gains in that area. So I'm not sure what our vacancy rate is going to look like in another year or so, but it's going to be better than 2%. We were at 2% vacancy before, and we've got big developments on the way. Lots of housing. So it's really positive, but that will be something that people are looking for.
Looking at the next 4 years in office, there is going to be a lot of challenges that the municipality will be faced with. How important do you believe is it to have that continuity on council from this term to the next term? Because you would be a voice that if the people of Brooks put their trust in you, they would then have a voice that was there for the last 4 years dealing with some of these issues and continuing on. Now, I know that there will be some new faces around that table. How important is it to have that continuity for yourself, but also for the city of Brooks to be a voice back on that council to ensure a transition that you cannot just stop on day one on October 21st, but you can continue on October 21st?
Yeah, it is important, just like any kind of mentorship. And me coming from an educational background, like I want to get all dirty, like it's the scaffolding, but like you do need to start from some kind of place of some experience, right? Or whether it was positive or negative, even, right? Like this is like so I'm hoping that, whoever's around the table, and if I'm so honored to, like, I would be so honored if I had the opportunity to be there to help in that regard, but to be sharing openly and open to hearing these new ideas, because there's nothing like fresh eyes. Fresh eyes on a situation is crucial. Like it makes a huge difference. So again, I mean, it's like a balance. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but a balance of experience and fresh eyes and new ideas, and being open to doing things in a way that's best for everyone.
I'm going to ask you a series of questions now, and I apologize. I'm asking this because, as we talked about at the top of the interview, you were the lone female councillor on a city of men, the city council of men, and not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that is the facts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is more women running in this upcoming election in the city of Brooks than probably in the past that you have seen or I have seen. What's your advice to the female leaders who are putting their name forward in the city of Brooks right now, or across Alberta, who are thinking about putting their names on the ballot? Because you're kind of a unicorn in this world. You're a female, you're a young female, you're a young mother with two kids, and you did it all. And as the saying goes, Ginger Roger had to do what Fred Astaire had to do, but backwards and in high heels. You did it. And I'm not saying you wore high heels the entire time, but what's your
Often, I
advice?
like heels.
There you go. Great. So the analogy does work then. What's your advice to the women who are running, the young female leaders who are running, saying, maybe I can do what Marissa did? What's your advice to them?
Oh man, hit me right in the feels. I have so much advice, but number one, it's you can do it. Like you can do it. I think, oh man, I'm getting emotional. I'm trying to recruit some women to run myself. I'm thrilled to see so many female candidates. Like this will be great. It's awesome to see. But when I'm talking to people who are women who are incredible, like they are so smart, they contribute to their community, they would be great counselors. There is a level of doubt that's it's a mixture of doubt and then a reality check that you do have to do everything but backwards and in high heels. It's a tall order. It's a big ask to ask women to run for elected office. And it's when these women share what if I can't do this, or they're sharing their concerns, and I'm telling them, you are already operating way up here. You're already past the bar of where you need to be considered. Like you are already qualified. I guess that's my message, is like you are already qualified where you are. I guarantee it. So you can do it. The other thing is, it's not going to be easy. And women in male dominated fields particularly, you do have to come prepared, or there's a feeling, there's a pressure that, uh, in order to be validated, in order to be heard and listened to, particularly if you're young, like myself, you better have all your facts straight. You better have all the information gathered, and you better say it with a confident face, or you may not get very far. But
Has
the
it been
biggest
worthwhile though?
Absolutely. I think personally, I have learned so much. And the other thing that I've learned that I am passing on to other women is, just show up as your authentic self and just really own your femininity. I think, for the first little bit, I was really thrown at the responses I was getting, or maybe I'm not exactly sure how to verbalize it, but it was throwing me. So I'm trying to understand. I'm like, how should I phrase this? And I'm overthinking like how to present myself, how to present this information, how to ask a question, how to do all these little things that it doesn't seem like are on the minds of anyone else. And when I stopped doing that, when I realized that it doesn't matter, none of that matters. I'm still a woman. I'm still under 40. And so when I started showing up as that unapologetically, that's when I found my voice. That's when I did my best work. I wish I could fast forward through, to the moment where that happened. And it feels really different. I'm like, man, I'm excited to go into this next term because now I know how to navigate that part. It wasn't easy, but I would definitely not trade that experience for anything. You really don't know until you're in a situation like that, how that's going to affect you and what your experience is going to be. But it was a lot. I mean, I could talk to you for a long time about that.
So what does the next 4 years look like under Wardrop councillorship? What is priority number one going to be if the people of Brooks put their trust back into you on October 20th?
Priority number one, I think I've got a couple things, and then they've always been my like where I lead from, and that's my integrity. I go to work every single day with a very high standard of integrity. And that's number one. Like that's priority number one is to maintain that and to keep striving for the most honest, the most authentic and thoughtful version of myself that I can be every single day. And the other thing is showing up like that and using my strong voice. So I am, and I've developed that. I know, I'm not quiet.
I was going to say, I've known you for about 3.5 years now, Marissa. I know you have a very strong voice. Not saying that is a bad thing, just saying that I know you know how to use your voice in the ways that you need to advocate for the city of Brooks now.
I sure do. And that's like, I get it done. I get stuff done with that strong voice. And that's it. I need to show up. I'm going to be showing up. Priority is to use that strong voice to advocate for what the people in my community want. That's what they're telling me to do. And that's my job. I take it really seriously. I am really proud of the reputation that I have built as a councillor who is bold and who will do what is right, not necessarily what is easy. It is a tough place to be sometimes, but like I said, that's why I keep that integrity in the forefront, is that, I have had conversations with people who, they may have disagreed with me, but they respect me, because I'm listening, I'm open, and I always vote for what I believe is in the best interest of everybody there. And I guess the other thing is to keep caring. I know these are really broad, but again, like I've never looked at it like these are my priorities, number 1, 2, 3, because the priorities always shift. Like those things are shifting all the time. What is the issue of the day? you know, and things
Be-
crop up, right? Like our big storm that happened, right? And that might throw a wrench into all of these different plans that you might have. But if that's why I keep to my core values of like, what is this job for? This job is advocacy and community building and being accountable to the people who put their trust in you. And that's my goal. That's what I'm going to do
and
if I am so
good
lucky.
good governance is top priority as well, because
Absolutely.
there's a lot of people who may get into this position, and those who are running, please heed my warning right now. You are not going to direct the administration to do something. You are going to govern administration to say these are the policies that you have to deal with. So
Yeah.
please don't think that you're going to tell a grader when it starts to snow to go plow your street. Ain't gonna happen. That's my own
Yeah.
little personal peeve there. So my final question, because I'm cautious of time and we're recording this at a late hour because you're a busy person, and that's the great thing about doing these interviews. You do it at the times where the people are available. Why should people put their trust in you on October 20th as their I can't I don't want to say next counselor because you're still a counselor, but why should they put their trust in you and vote for you to be reelected as one of their counselors for the city of Brooks?
Uh, I I mean, I think I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I mean, it's one thing to say you can trust me to do the hard thing, not the easy thing. But you can go watch me do that. And like you said, I have the receipts. But like there I have not shied away from a difficult conversation from a disgruntled community member. Uh, uh, a tough budget. I actually embrace them. I love them. That's why I want to do this again. I don't think you want it. It's not an easy job to do, but if you love doing those things and you really want to do them well, it won't feel that uncomfortable. Um, you know, I think I've earned the respect of many residents who, even if they may not agree with me on every issue, they know that I will advocate for what I think is best. And I am just one voice, right? But I think, ideally you want people around the table that share that same value. Um, I do show up authentically as who I am, and I don't shy away from my values or my opinions on things. And so, when somebody asks me a question, this is what you get. And the last 4 years have been they've been challenging in that, it's been humbling. There's been a lot of learning that I've had to do over the last 4 years, but it's also been affirming in the sense that, I even look back at my old platform too, and like all those notes, and I said, yeah, I went in with those values and I stayed true to those values. And those are the values that people elected me on. And I put my money where my mouth is and I stayed true to them. And that's why I would love to have their vote, because you can trust me to do that again. I'm tried and tested there. And I think, that's what we all want from our elected officials is like, are you going to do what you say? Are you, when push comes to shove, are you going to go with the crowd or are you going to represent me? Right. Or whatever it is. And I've shown that I've got people's backs. So I really hope to have earned their vote on October 20th. And I'd be honored to get another crack at it.
So I know I said that was my last question, but anyone who knows me knows that on this show, I say it's my last question, then three other questions pop up. But I do have one other question. And I'm not asking this because you're a woman, but I'm asking this because I just recently chatted with the deputy mayor of Legal, Andy Beaton. I asked him the exact same question that I'm going to ask you. You can't do this by yourself. This is not a individual thing that you're doing here, putting your name forward. I'm assuming and I know you should never assume, but I would take a wild guess that says you have the full backing of your family because they are the biggest cheerleaders that you can have in your corner during a tough campaign, a tough battle. I'm assuming your family's all behind you for another 4 years to say, "Yep, Marissa, mom, go do it," because that means I can use the fact that my mom's a counselor at school when you're elected again.
It doesn't really get you a lot of street cred, unfortunately. Um, sorry, now I've lost what the.
But the family's fully
Oh
behind
yes,
you.
the family support. I absolutely do. I am so grateful for my family support, particularly my husband and my two kids. Um, they're wonderful, and I couldn't do it without them. Um, and on another note, about it is a question that is asked a lot to women though, because it's a reality. And so I guess to those women, if any woman is watching and is considering running, okay, find your people. If your family, it's a complex thing. And it's difficult for a lot of women to allow themselves, right? I think I can't remember what the statistic, but women need to be asked is it 8 times? There you
I
go.
I heard 8 once, and then I heard 10 another time, and then someone told me 2, and I was like, I've heard higher than 2, but it could
More
be
than
2.
two.
Could be 2 for some women. I'm not trying to denigrate any who's saying that it only takes to someone 2 times to ask a
Yeah.
woman, but I've heard on average it's about 8.
No, and it's because it's true. Even myself, um, I needed a push multiple times. Um, Particularly, I'm very grateful to my husband and my father for really pushing me because, you've got all those like, oh, I don't know if I should or if I can. And that's a lot of time. But, my message out there would be, or my advice unsolicited at this point, though, would be, especially to women, but to anybody, right? Anybody who finds their support lukewarm or maybe not there, go find your people. Like, go find people who believe in you. I'm sure they're out there. And if you don't know, call me, email me, contact me. I will be that person for you. I sincerely uh, believe that. And even if you feel like you can't do it, you really, really can.
Marissa, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sitting down with me. But before we go, I do want to just put an editorial note in this episode that if you were running for this upcoming municipal election in the city of Brooks and you want to be featured on this show, please head over to the crossbordernetwork.ca website at crossbordernetwork.ca. That's all one word, .ca, and click on the join the show. And there you will be able to find and click on the Alberta Municipal Votes 2025. Now, I have 343 other municipalities that I have to deal with that between now and October 22nd. So if you want to be featured on the show, please reach out. Now, I will probably be reaching out via email to almost all candidates who are running in the city of Brooks. So if you do want to be featured, don't be afraid to ask. Marissa, always a pleasure to sit down with you and chat. It's a pleasure, and best of luck on October 20th.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights into the world of this upcoming Alberta municipal election scheduled for October 20th. Now, editorial note time. If you are a candidate running for reeve, councillor, or even mayor, please reach out to us. We would love to have you on the show so we can talk about yourself and the reason why you are running for municipal council in your municipality. Now, your support means the world to us. So if you can, share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we will be back with a brand new episode of Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 on Municipal Affairs shortly. Till then, everyone.